books have in common? The answer? They are 3 books that changed my life for the better. Anyway, I'm going to show you a little bit of why they changed my life. Okay, my first book that I mentioned is I Thought It Was Me. I thought it was just me, but it isn't. Telling the Truth About Perfectionism, Inadequacy and Power. Written by Brené Brown, Ph.D, L.M.S.W, author of the best-selling book, The Gifts of Imperfection. Anyway, this is a bit of a book summary. And now, warning, the book does deal with some tricky topics, like shame, whether it's experienced as shame web or a shame box, and toxic, unhealthy, unachievable expectations, whether conflicting, unanimous, or even a mix of both. It also deals with arbitrary gender stereotypes and arbitrary double standards. And there's even a point where it also reminded me a bit about women experiencing shame as a shame web, and men experiencing shame as a box, with definite expectations. However, I also heard of an example of conflicting expectations where somehow it is more that one expectation expects us to be dry and odorless. However, there's also the expectation to sooner take an antiperspirant that smells like chopping up your nose or putting it on the chopping block, rather than actually smelling something more milder like the natural body odor, which, by the way, varies from person to person. What I do instead is I use this tea tree natural deodorant. Now, it's not antiperspirant. It actually lets me sweat and still be socially accepted by masking with something nicer, but natural, of course. And full disclosure, this is not a sponsored video. I am not affiliated with Green Beaver Company. I just like the product, and I genuinely use it. Anyway, back to the topic of the video, of the book. Anyway, the benefits I got from this book by Brené Brown were that she debunks toxic beliefs, such as the whole never good enough mentality, and it also inspires me to reject toxic masculinity, which is another tricky topic. And this is an ongoing journey. To build on this, I also cite someone managed to tell me that basically on the ongoing journey toward rejecting toxic masculinity and ongoing struggle, I learned that it's much harder to get neurodivergent people to conform to arbitrary gender stereotypes. I agree that being neurodivergent for me means it's easier for me to question gender stereotypes because I'm already outside the social expectations by being neurodivergent instead of neurotypical or neuromajority. My brain works differently, and I start to want to see why things are done a certain way. And when they don't serve a healthy purpose, and I see through the holes of argument that people use to cite why you are expected to do certain things, I basically question things quite readily. And this has gotten me in some challenging social situations. However, it's also empowering to know from reading that there are ways to navigate life as a non-conforming person. And as a neurodivergent person, sometimes I stumbled into bending gender conventions without even knowing it. For example, I've actually sung some Neil Young songs. Some of them go high enough in the vocal range that they're rangy enough that I find it hard to sing the lowest notes sometimes. At least I did when I was in high school. And then the highest notes required me to sing in falsetto. So I would sing in falsetto, and it might sound a bit strange, but you get the idea. it doesn't sound like a stereotypical quote-unquote male voice, whatever the stereotypical voice would even be. And there are other ways to bend gender conventions too with sound. One is death metal growling vocals, because death metal vocals, they're more stereotypically associated with men singing heavy metal. So to get females singing that, well, it's even less expected. For an example of females singing death metal style vocals, check out 2SICH's YouTube channel, where she does a Greta Thunberg impression, look-alike as well, singing about a plastic bag in the sea. Also an environmental protest song in a way. Another way to bend gender conventions, or expectations of music in general, could be to sing undertone singing, happy undertone singing. Okay, maybe that wasn't the best impression, but another way to do this with vocals, speaking of gender bending, is to... This is unconventional for anyone, but it's especially unconventional if a female singer does it, but it's still a valid way of expressing yourself. Lip bass. How do you do this? Well, what you do to get the lip bass is blowing my lips like this. Now, that's low enough in frequency by my perfect pitch, I can tell that it gets down into 5-string bass territory for me. Depending on the dimensions of your lips, your range may vary. It's also used in beatboxing, too. Anyway, enough about that one book. We want to get into the next book that changed my life. Turning the Mind into an Ally by Sakyong Mipham. Not sure I'm pronouncing the name right. The foreword is by Pema, Chödrön. I'm not sure I'm pronouncing the names right, but anyway. The book talks about how our minds wander and sometimes self-sabotage us, and how we can turn our minds into an ally and direct our thoughts to work for our benefit and to help others in the world by helping ourselves, such. And it's got some good reviews on it. For example, Publishers Weekly says it's one of the best of the Buddhism for Westerners genre. And this book changed my life by inspiring me to get involved in meditation in my own life. And to that end of meditation, I actually use an app called Oak, O-A-K. And it provides some guided meditations. Even on the free version, I've gotten a lot of mileage out of it. Full disclosure, this is not a sponsored video. I just like using the app. Anyway, the meditation helps give me a clarity that I don't have every day. And it also helps raise consciousness, too. To see that things come and go, and change. It also supports the growth mindset by living in the moment and being grounded in the present. Anyway, the next book, and last but not least, is Time is Tight, My Life, Note by Note. Written by Booker T. Jones. Yes, this is Booker T. Jones of Booker T. and the MG's fame. It's his memoir, and he's very iconic, and Booker T. Jones is a musician of color, a person of color, or POC for short. African American roots in the Memphis soul sound, and And he's done more than just write Green Onions. He's written a whole bunch of other songs and tunes, and collaborated with other musicians, such as Otis Redding, Wilson Pickett, Sam and Dave. Later he collaborated with Neil Young, and others, to name a few. Anyway, Booker T. Jones is American. He's a multi-instrumentalist, songwriter, record producer, and arranger. Let's see. Anyway, he was instrumental in the growth of soul music and soundtracks of revolutions, to paraphrase the book's summary. Now, I will let you know that this book deals with tricky topics in his experience, such as growing up around racial segregation, as well as dealing with difficult, challenging group dynamics, complex group dynamics in the Booker T and the MGs group. And the MGs were racially mixed, which means they were, for example, there were some white people and other people of color in the group. MGs were racially mixed. An example of what racial integration can sound like in music. That's just one example among many. Still, I love the music. This book gave me a deeper appreciation not just for Green Onions, but also the musical heritage of Black, Indigenous, and people of color, which underpins pretty much the entire musical landscape of North America. And there's bound to be some influence of Black, Indigenous, and people of color in any music around the world, somewhere. So you might wonder, why did I choose these particular books when there were a lot of different choices? Well, the reason I chose these different books, they all resonated with me in some way and changed my life and still do to this day. For example, the Brené Brown book is commonly classified as self-help psychology. However, it also gets into some social analysis and critique around social issues. And Sakyong Mipham's book, Turning the Mind into an Ally, also tackles self-help in some ways, but it also gets into how you can help the world by helping yourself meditate and build a healthier world from a state of inner peace. It deals with it from a meditation angle. And Time is Tight by Booker T. Jones also talks about social justice issues from his own experience as a person of color. And his life story is inspiring to me in that he's come a long ways in his life, and he shows appreciation for Neil Young beyond racial barriers. Also, plus he also underscores the importance of literature and people being able to tell their stories. Thank you. These 3 books have positively influenced my life in many ways. For example, I do meditations more often than I used to, and I get a sense of clarity from that, about where I go in my life. And I learn from Brené Brown not to let other people's reactions define me. And from Booker T. Jones, I learn to listen to music written by people that you don't hear every day. Music from different cultural backgrounds. Anyway, thank you.